Isang mapayapang hapon Pilipinas. Ito po ang inyong balerina ng bayan, si Lisa Macuja Elizalde na bumabati sa lahat ng nakikinig sa DZRH Radio at sa mga nanonood sa DZRH TV, lalo na sa ating mga kasamahang alagad ng sining at kultura sa buong bansa. Passion, discipline, and a constant hunger to grow. These are the secrets to longevity in the arts. Bukod sa angking talento at interes, kailangan din ang tiyaga, tibay ng loob at labis na pagmamahal sa sining upang manatiling buhay at makabuluhan ang career ng isang artist. The art scene can be unpredictable and the industry ever-changing. But those who truly love their craft will always find ways to evolve, inspire, and stay relevant through the years. Ang ating espesyal na Easter Sunday episode sa hapong ito ay isang pagdiriwang, a celebration of renewal, resilience, and triumph na kinakatawan ng ating panauhin sa hapong ito. Someone whose artistic journey proves that with dedication and heart, one can build a name and a legacy that endures. Kaya't huwag kayong aalis. Samahan ninyo kami sa kalahating oras ng masayang kwentuhan kasama ang premyadong aktres, mga awit at direktor na si Miss Menchu Lauchengco Yulo. Magbabalik ang Art to Art pagkatapos ng ilang paalala.
Programang hatid ay sining at kulturang para sa lahat. Magbabalik ang Art to Art.
Tinesting, sinuri, siniyasan. Ang resulta? Super effective ang Shield sa pagpatay ng bakterya at virus. Shield Antibacterial Soap. Believe ang mga eksperto sa Philippine Nurses Association. At si Mami.
Tiwala ako sa Shield.
Shield Antibacterial Soap. Napatunayang mabisa. Ang mga nurse, tiwala.
ACS. Hello, Washi! Laundry day na naman!
Yay! Anong meron?
Mancha ng chocolate, putik, may libag pa!
Kaya natin yan! With Pride Washing Machine Detergent, may triple stain-away formula. Tanggal ang makapit, madikit, at madupit na dumit mancha. Kaya easy-easy ang labada.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon!
All you need is pride. All you need is pride. ACS.
Usapang sining at kultura para sa lahat. Art to Art.
Nandito pa rin tayo sa Art to Art at kasama natin sa hapong ito ang tinaguriang First Lady of Philippine Musical Theater, Menchu Lauchengco Yulo. Magandang hapon, Menchu.
Magandang hapon, Lisa.
Welcome back to Art to Art.
I know. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, the first time mo sa amin, radio pa lang,
Radio.
no? So now it's
I even have
radio,
photos of that.
Yes, oo.
Radio pa tayo
yeah,
noon, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, welcome back. And I'm sure for everybody who's listening and watching our program now, we would like to know first how you got started. Because Menchu, you've been in theater since 1978. It's quite a long journey. Let's go back. Ano ang unang nagtulak sa'yo na pumasok sa teatro? And was there a defining moment na naisip mong, ito na yun. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Okay. My story is actually quite funny. I never set out to be in the theater. I wasn't exposed to it. My parents didn't necessarily watch musicals or plays. So ang nangyari is I was in second year high school. Now, the extent of my musical knowledge was The Sound of Music, the movie. I love the movie. I loved King and I. You know, hanggang dun lang ako. So, in second year high school, I had a classmate who came up to me. I was 15. And there were auditions for the musical King and I ng Repertory Philippines. So she was like, man, tara, let's audition. Sabi ko, ano yung audition? No idea. Then I was very into sports. So she goes, wala, pupunta tayo dyan and it's the King and I. And so in my head, oh, King and I, the movie, I go, no idea. So I said, sige, I'll go. Being adventurous and daring, right? Not knowing what I was getting myself into. And because I was only 15, my mother says, you bring your brother with you because you can't go alone. Raymond was then 12. Okay, so punta na kami. That was in Insular Life, Makati pa nun. And so I get to the audition and I realize an audition meant having to stand on stage and sing. Okay, I've never sung in my life. So I'm like, huh? So, unbeknownst to Raymond, pinasok ko yung pangalan niya because he was in the choir of his school. Raymond already had the voice.
I see.
He was a singer, he was a boy soprano, in fact. He had no idea. So, tinawag yung pangalan niya. Gulat siya. So, he comes up on stage and he auditions, and so did I. And of course, I had no vocal. My voice was really thin, and I sang a pop song. Long story short, I did not get in. Also because of my age. I was too old to be a child of the king, and I was too young to be a wife. Raymond, on the other hand, got cast as the son of Anna. So I am responsible for his career. I am the one. If it wasn't for me, he would not be where he is today. So life went back to normal. Raymond got in, started to rehearse, and I went back to school. So opening night, CCP, Main Theater, The King and I, in 1977. That had Leia as Ying Yao Lak. She was all of 7. I watched the show, lights go down, I hear the orchestra, curtain goes up, and it hit me that this is what I want to do.
I see.
And that's the cliche. And so the following year,
Okay.
1978, I vowed to audition again. That was Fiddler on the Roof, 1978. And I got cast as one of the daughters of Tevye. He had 5 daughters, the 3 of which are leads, and then the other 2 are kind of saling pusa. I was the 4th daughter.
I see.
And that began, I never looked back anymore.
You prepared for your audition that
Yes,
time naman.
I still had a very, very epis voice, but because Raymond was already connected with Rep, medyo may pangalan na, you know, so they're like, oh, that's the sister of Raymond. So, and I was really just saling pusa. And then I had to really work my way as the theater progressed in terms of my career.
Yeah. Well, talking about that, theater is really not always the easiest career path.
No, not at all.
Especially at that time, no? How did your family react when you chose this profession?
My parents were okay with it as long as my grades were not affected. Because these were the very early days of rep where we did not, unlike now, it's literally an all-day rehearsal.
Yeah.
In those days, we were still allowed to go to school. People still had to go to work because we had no rehearsal fees. So rehearsals always happened after school or after work. So the condition I had with my parents was as long as your grades are not affected, no problem. They're very, very supportive.
Okay.
So it was basically, it was very tiring because you will rehearse until maybe 10, 11 o'clock, go home, sleep, wake up early for school. So that was the life me and Raymond had for the longest time. Yeah, it's really, you have to be dedicated and you have to love it because it is exhausting.
It is.
As you very well know.
I know.
Yeah, it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
Okay, but yeah, I'm glad that they were always supportive.
Very.
No?
They were always very supportive
Yeah.
of the two of us. Even in like costumes, my mom will sew me things for costumes, you know. So she was very, very supportive.
Okay. So you've played a variety of roles from Eva Perón to Guinevere in Camelot to Fantine in Les Miserables, just to name a few. So, meron bang isang role na talagang napahirap sa'yo? So, whether physically, emotionally, or vocally?
There are.
Yeah, how did you face that kind of challenge?
There were several roles that had difficulties in different aspects. So if I talk vocal difficulty, the most difficult vocally I had to attack was Evita because of the demand of the range required. For that, I trained 6 months prior. So
Wow,
I went to Jai Sabas, who was my vocal coach, and interesting story is I started out as a soprano. So if my early days of rep, I was Maria in West Side Story, I was Joanna and Sweeney Todd. So it was all soprano roles. I had no chest tones. My first chest tone attempt was when we did Into the Woods in the 90s, where I wanted to play the witch over Cinderella. So it was I challenged myself. So I was learning to discover my chest tones. So when Zenaida Mador approached me and Michael actually and said, I want to do Evita with the two of, this was in 88, if I remember. No, I'm sorry. In the early 90s, 88 was the first production where I was the mistress. That was when Baby Barredo was Evita. So we did it twice. So when she approached me and I said, I need to train for this. So I went to my vocal coach, and I said, I'm being offered Evita. So she tried me, and she goes, oh my God, Menchu, you sound like a soprano. You sound like Julie Andrews trying to be a so because we need to fix this, because I had a very sweet voice. So it was 6 months of constant bugbog, and getting those chest tones out there. So that would be the most difficult role vocally. Acting wise, there are two. That would be Fosca in Passion, because of the demands of her so-called disease, and Diana in Next to Normal, where I had to play a bipolar woman who lost her son at 8 months old. So those by far are the more difficult extreme that I had to really go. Like when I did Diana, I really had to go into a dark place. I was so heavy, and just to know the pain of losing a baby and being bipolar and how that affects you, that was really a very, very difficult journey for me. So those three stand out in terms of degree of difficulty.
Okay. This is a question that I've always wanted to ask actresses. After the performance, how do you switch off and then switch back on the next day for the next show?
That can be difficult. I remember in Passion, because again, if you have 2 shows, especially, it was very hard for me to have fun and relax with the cast, because it changes your disposition, whereas I had to be of a deep melancholy to play Fosca. So one of my best friends, Lisa Infante, Macuja, would bring me out. I was with Gia then. It was me, Gia, and Michael who did Passion. So everybody was having fun in between shows, and Lisa Infante would pull me out and says, okay, too much fun, Menchu. And she'd put me in my corner so that I could get back into the Fosca. And in the same way, when I would go home after doing Diana, I was so heavy that my husband would be like, oh my God, I'm not going to talk to you because you're just so mabigat. So it's very hard to switch it off, especially when you delve so deeply into a character. When we did the repeats of Next to Normal, it was easier because I had latched on to Diane already. So it was very easy for me to shut off. But it is difficult. So it takes me a while to really settle down and shake the character off. But it's also hard because you wake up the next day and you have to do her again. So how much do you shake off and how much do you retain? So it's really a matter of knowing the balance, so it doesn't drive you crazy. So it's really true. That. It's very. I can't say that you shut off the character completely because the character stays with you. So it's just a matter of knowing. Okay, I need to, relax. Take a breath, know that I'm back to being myself, but not lose naman what you've discovered about the character, or it will be very hard to get back into it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And then after a run, like you say, you do 40 shows, and then basically it stops. How do you recover from that?
That is difficult because you get so much into the routine of it, and then it just stops, and you. Like me personally, for a few days, I feel like I'm floating because I don't know what to do with myself because you're so used to a routine, and I'm so I base everything on a routine. So if I don't do this, I'm not gonna have a good show. So I'm so crazy like that. So if I develop this particular routine, I have to go through it, and to suddenly not have to do the routine, I'm like, who am I? Where am I?
Identity crisis.
Identity crisis. So it takes me a few days to sort of go back into who I am or what Menchu, does regularly. There are times that I go from one musical to the next, which is also very difficult. There was a time I was doing Carrie, the musical, where I played Margaret White. And if you know the movie, she kind of kills her, she gets killed and she sort of stabs her daughter, right? And right after I closed Carrie, of which I murder Carrie, well, she doesn't die, but I sort of stab her. I jump into Cinderella, and I'm the fairy godmother. So I go from this really dark role into this really happy role, you know. So I keep telling myself, okay, don't stab Cinderella, don't kill Cinderella, you know. So that's my mental, because literally I went straight into it, you know. So I was rehearsing Cinderella, I was performing Carrie, and then I close Carrie and I go into tech of Cinderella. It was like, whoa, you know. So I had moments like that. That's even more difficult, you know, because there's no time. You just have to completely shift.
I mean, it kind of
everything.
reminds me of White Swan, Black Swan,
Yes,
in Swan
exactly,
Lake. You know, you had to
exactly.
switch on the
Exactly.
temptress and then switch
Exactly.
off the.
So it's a vocal adjustment.
Yes, exactly.
And you cannot sound anymore like you're this horrible person and this darkness in the voice, and then you become the fairy godmother, you know, and then you have to start talking like this, you know. So that was fun. That was a challenge.
Yeah. Schizophrenia galore.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay. Marami pa po tayong pag-uusapan kasama ang premyadong musical theater actor and director na si Menchu Lauchengco Yulo. Dito pa rin sa Art to Art. Magbabalik po kami pagkatapos na ilang paalala.
Programang hatid ay sining at kulturang para sa lahat. Magbabalik ang Art to Art. Schedule ng mga inaabangang konsyerto. Update sa mga magagandang panoorin sa mga tanghalan at teatro. Narito na ang Art to Art Calendar.
Narito ang ating arts calendar. Sa musika, magkakaroon ng send-off concert ang Philippine Philharmonic Orchestra bago isagawa ang kanilang 9-city tour sa United Kingdom sa Mayo. Mapapanood ang concert sa April 24, alas 6:30 ng gabi sa Metropolitan Theatre Manila. Ang kanilang concert tour ay binubuo ng mga palabas sa Bristol Beacon, Bristol, May 13, Cadogan Hall, London, May 14, Symphony Hall, Birmingham, May 15, G Live, Guildford, May 16, Theatre Royal, Norwich, May 18, Bridgewater Hall, Manchester, May 19, City Hall, Sheffield, May 21, St. George Hall, Bradford, May 22, at Perth Festival, Scotland, May 24. Para sa karagdagang detalye, bumisita sa social media pages ng Cultural Center of the Philippines. Sa teatro, magbubukas ang Delia D, a musical featuring the songs of Jonathan Manalo sa April 25 at patuloy na magkakaroon ng palabas hanggang June 8 sa Newport Performing Arts Theatre sa Pasay City. Tampok ang mga hit songs at bagong awiting likha ng batikang songwriter at music producer na si Jonathan Manalo. Tampok si Fee Palmos bilang ang drag performer na si Delia sa kwento ng pagtupad ng pangarap at paghanap ng sariling tinig. Kasama sina Shaira, Opsimar at Floyd Dena bilang second leads. Maaring bumili ng ticket sa Ticket World o kaya sa Newport World Resorts box office. Inihahandog ng Company of Actors in Streamlined Theater o Cast PH at ng Mad Child Productions ang In the Eyes of the People, isang kakaibang adaptation ng An Enemy of the People ni Henrik Ibsen. Ito'y magkakaroon ng palabas sa April 26, alas 8 ng gabi at April 27, alas 3 ng hapon at alas 8 ng gabi sa The Mirror Theater Studio, Makati. Tampok sa cast sina Jenny Hamora, Ron Capinding, Nor Domingo, Jam Binay, Zoe De Ocampo at Katski Flores.
Tinesting, sinuri, siniyasan. Ang resulta? Super effective ang Shield sa pagpatay ng bakterya at virus. Shield Antibacterial Soap. Believe ang mga eksperto sa Philippine Nurses Association. At si Mami.
Tiwala ako sa Shield.
Shield Antibacterial Soap. Napatunayang mabisa. Ang mga nurse, tiwala.
Hello, Washi! Laundry day na naman!
Yay! Anong meron?
Mancha ng chocolate, putik, may libag pa!
Kaya natin yan! With Pride Washing Machine Detergent, may triple stain-away formula. Tanggal ang makapit, madikit, at madupit na dumit mancha. Kaya easy-easy ang labada.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon!
All you need is pride. All you need is pride. ACS.
Usapang sining at kultura para sa lahat. Art to Art.
As long as he needs me, I know where I must be. I'll climb on steadfastly, as long as he needs me, as long as life As long as he needs me. If you are lonely, then you will know. When someone needs you, you love them so. You love them so. Oh my man, I love him so.
Andito pa rin tayo sa Art to Art at kasama pa rin natin ang isa sa pinakamaningning na bituin ng Philippine Musical Theater na si Miss Menchu Lauchengco Yulo. Okay, Menchu, we just heard your beautiful voice in As Long As He Needs Me, an iconic song. When was that performance?
That was in the Triple Threats, 2013. It was the launching of that concept. So Audie Himora, Noni Buencamino, and myself launched the Triple Threats series at the CCP, which has continued to today.
Yes, up to today.
Up to
there's
today.
the
So we were the very
Triple
first to
Threats,
launch that
Yeah.
concert.
Okay, for those who don't understand what a triple threat is, can you
A
explain?
triple threat is an artist who can do three things. So act, sing, and dance. But now you have the quadruple threats and people who can play an instrument, you know.
Okay.
So that's what a triple
Yeah.
threats triple threat actor means is you can dance, act, and sing. So we had to have portions of the show where we showed some kind of dancing, just to complete the concept.
The triple
Yeah.
threat.
Yes.
Okay. And, of course, aside from your iconic performances as an actor, you've also made your mark as a director. Paano at kailan mo na desisyonan na mag-transition into directing, and iba ba ang fulfillment na nakukuha mo bilang director versus bilang isang actress?
Okay. Funny thing is, everything I set out to do was never something I chose to do. So becoming an actress, I fell in love with it, and I was very happy in the ensemble. When we did The Sound of Music with sila Leia and Monique, that's viral to this day, the student canteen performance, I was very happy being Luisa. But they pushed me to do Liesl, and I was very insecure about singing. Same thing happened when they did West Side, and they wanted me to be Maria, and I could not imagine playing Maria because she was a classically trained singer.
Yeah.
So I was sent to vocal lessons by Zenaida Mador and Baby Barredo. When directing came to me, again, I had no aspirations to direct. I was very happy just being an actress. I didn't think I could direct.
Yeah.
So West Side Story, Audie approached me. They were doing West Side Story. I believe this was in 2007, if I remember correctly. Christian Bautista was going to play the role of Tony, and Joanna Ampiel was going, and Karil, tatlong hari, were cast as Maria. And he said, "Would you like to direct the show?" Because I had done Maria in the 80s. And I said, "Audie, I can't direct." He goes, "You can." I go, "I can't." So it was a constant argument. After, I don't know how, maybe a week of convincing me and everybody saying, "We're going to support you, blah, blah, blah," I took it upon myself to direct. And of course, I went on pure instinct. No training for directing. And I think I did pretty well, considering I had no experience. Of course, I sit there and I watch the show and I realize, oh, I could have done this better. Oh, this could have been clearer. So you kind of criticize yourself.
Palagi namang ganyan.
Diba?
Eh.
So you're like, I could have done this better. I could have done this better. So that became my journey naman as a director. And I went on to direct other shows. And with each show that I direct, I try to improve. I criticize myself. I ask people I respect, what did you think? And then they give me their comments. Of course, I take what makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And I don't what doesn't. Because each director will have their own take. So whatever I feel, oh nga naman, yeah, that makes sense. I could have done that. So again, it was something that fell on my lap. I didn't seek it. So I'm very thankful to Audie for that, to push me in that direction. As to being a director is for me more difficult than just being an actress kasi iniisip mo yung buong show. Whereas acting, you just think of yourself. Eto, you're the captain of the ship. So if anything goes wrong, kasalanan mo yan. I truly believe that. You have to now sort of steer your actors to show their best and hide their weaknesses. And so that's a constant process. And I'm very OC about how it looks. I make pakialam the lights. I make pakialam everything. So I'm very OC about those things. I just don't leave it to my lighting designer. So I always say, no, I don't like that. I want this, I want that. And I come into that knowing. So the whole production weighs very heavily on my shoulders, and it's literally, I don't sleep because ideas just pop into my head, and then I write them down, you know. So it's a little more nerve-wracking than it is to just be an artist and just sit there and say, okay, where do I go? What do I do? You know, and then go home and just think about your role. So it's a little more it's a great challenge, but it can be very, very nerve-wracking talaga.
But would you say that directing is more fulfilling?
I would think so, because it's so interesting. You see a script, you read a script, and then you see it. And then you see your vision come alive. So it's very fulfilling. Because as an actress, you don't see yourself. You just feel that you've done a good job. You know, people say you've done a good job, and you know you've tried your best. But to actually see your production come to life is so fulfilling. And I never sit back and say, ang galing-galing ko, ang ganda-ganda ng show ko. You know, there's always a part of me that wants to learn more and push myself more. So even when I travel, I make watching shows my classroom. And I sit there and I go, why did the director do that? If I was given this, what would I do? So it's a constant classroom for me because I never studied. You know, so that's how I read a lot about how productions are done, how great directors think, and how they come up with their own visions of a show, how they deconstruct the show, what was the point behind deconstructing it, did it work? So I'm forever analyzing. Sometimes I don't even enjoy it anymore because I'm sitting there and I'm analyzing.
Walang tulog talaga.
Walang tulog talaga. So you're like, bakit na ginawa? Hindi ko yan maintindihan. Bakit na ginawa yun? You know, so it's a constant, you know.
Yeah. So when you're not acting and directing, paano ka naman nagre-recharge?
I like just staying home and watching Netflix.
Okay.
Something as baba as that.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I squeeze in a little yoga exercises here and there. But I just like staying home, detoxing, maybe having dinner with some close friends, but really just staying home. I think the pandemic did that to me. You know how you kind of just stayed home and got into the routine of watching Netflix. So that is how I really relax and I just watch Netflix.
Okay. Okay. But when you watch Netflix, does the same thing happen?
Yes.
Still,
still.
Why did he choose that
why
camera
was that
angle?
An acting choice? Why was that an acting choice? Oh my God, I love the subtlety of that, you know. So it's the same banana. So I really choose really simple, funny things na hindi ko masyado ma-analyze. You know?
Okay. But aside from theater, you've also explored other forms, other platforms like film and television. So ano ang biggest adjustment para sa'yo when acting for film or TV versus performing on stage?
It's very, very different. Many times I'm too large for TV. So it's a lot of really knowing that you have to really take everything back. And there are differences and there are things that are not different. Truth is always the same, whether you're doing theater or you're doing the film or you're doing movies. Truth is your basic principle. Truth in your character, truth in what's happening to the character. That is the foundation. Now, how large you make it or how small you make it is what makes the difference. So when I did Larawan, the movie version, because it is a musical, so it was a little bit larger than life because the characters burst into song. But we also had to know that we had to take it down.
Yeah, rein it in.
Yeah, because the camera is right there. So you still had to sing it, but you had to know that the camera is going to zoom in on you, so you can't overdo it. Whereas if you would do it on a stage, it would really be trying to reach the last row of the theater. So simple adjustments like that. I'm still more comfortable in the theater. I have yet to know how to conquer film. I can't say I'm completely comfortable in film and television. I think there are people who do it better than me. So once in a while, I do accept, but it's very limited because I also don't want to go into something na alam ko naman hindi ako bagay or I won't be able to do a good job. So I'm very choosy.
And also because you're very, very busy.
Also,
Yeah, because
also.
can you tell us your current projects? I believe you're juggling 3 productions
I was
at
juggling.
the moment.
When
yeah?
February came in, I was restaging I Love You, You're Perfect, Now Change, which was a massive hit last year, June. Repertory decided to open their season with it. So I went into tech, because it was a pickup rehearsal. So I went into tech for that first week of Feb. At the same time, Delia, our upcoming musical that opens April 25, started rehearsals. So I would go from rehearsals of Delia to Eastwood to rehearse. Well, in the beginning, it was still the Mint College where we would rehearse.
Yeah.
So I would go from Delia to Mint, then Delia to Eastwood.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my life in February, March. Then we opened. We opened I Love You Feb 20. That began naman in March, my dialect coaching for Come From Away, which opens in June. So my life was I Love You, You're Perfect in the weekends, Delia in the weekdays, and then mornings of the weekend, dialect coaching with our dialect coach who is based in LA, who is the dialect coach for Come From Away, Broadway. So that was my life, the 3 shows, juggling the 3 shows. Then finally, I Love You closed. Now we go into heavy rehearsals for Delia. We go into tech in April, and I begin Come From Away music rehearsals in April. So it's literally patong until June. So that's when my life sort of settles a little bit. So I end everything in June. We run Come From Away June. Delia closes in June. September, I leave for Singapore and I take on Kimberly Akimbo. And so I'm back in November. So that's going to be my year.
Wow. Okay. And after more than 4 decades, you're still at the top of your game. Ano ang sikreto mo for staying passionate, relevant, and continuously growing in the industry?
Actually, to be totally honest, Lisa, when the pandemic hit and performances stopped, I didn't do anything that the others would do. I didn't go into Kumu or I didn't do any of that. Basically, I'm not a techie, so that stresses me out going into this whole tech thing. And I felt it was something that I wasn't really bent on doing. So I literally stopped performing. We were about to open the band's visit. We made it as far as preview night, and we were shut down opening night. So that was the last of my theater. And it sort of got me very depressed during, the whole idea of, what's going to happen. So everybody went through that depression. So the pandemic took 2 years. I honestly thought that was it na for me. For some strange reason, I really believe, because I'm much older already, I had not been singing for 2.5 years. So parang, for me, do I still want to perform? So I said, direct na lang ako. Maybe I'm at a point in my life na ayoko na. I don't want to do events anymore. The younger ones have now taken it over. Do I really still want to, fuss about myself? Parang I got into that whole idea of I'm done, basically, as far as a performer is concerned. So I had not really sung until events started to come in mga 2023. And I had to get my voice back because tulog eh. I mean, you had not sung. And, when you hit your 60s, your voice already starts to go down. So I said, that's it. I'm not, it was already very difficult for me. So I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. So when this year came on, and then all of a sudden I got into Come From Away, because everything else I was directing na. And then Kimberly Akimbo came. I was like, oh my God, so is this God telling me you're not done yet? So I was very shocked at the advantages now coming my way. And I said, I'm not going to close that door. So it's literally, I'm starting again to vocalize. I've gone back to my vocal coach and get my voice back to, it can never be what it was. And that's something I have to accept. So I have to now discover, where is my voice now that I'm in my 60s? And how do I keep it healthy and still be able to do the roles that I am being offered to do? So that's where I am now. It's it's a difficult process because, again, like I said, I will never be the voice I was in my 40s and 30s. So it's a readjustment of where I am today and where I am vocally.
Yeah.
And figuring out my next steps, into how everything is going to unfold for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I really thought I was done.
You're not yet done.
Thank you.
In fact, I think invite them to the show that's opening in a few days, this April 25, right?
25,
yeah.
yes.
That's Delia.
Delia D.
Delia
so
D.
Where do I look? Here?
Just right there.
I'd like
yeah.
to invite everyone, please come to see Delia D. This is using the music of Jonathan Manalo. It's a really, really fun musical. It talks about basically Delia D, who is a drag queen who wants to go further. And you know how drag queens usually lip sync. She wants to go further and be known for her voice. So she joins Idols of the Galaxy, which is a singing competition. And that is how the story now unfolds. Her journey into becoming the person she wants to become as far as her singing career is concerned. So it's the journey of Delia D. Yeah.
Okay, and those performances are in Newport?
Yes, Newport World Resorts, starting April 25, and we run till June.
And you can get tickets at?
Tickets at, of course, Newport World Resorts, or I believe Ticket World is also, I'm not sure what other places, but definitely at the box office of the Newport World Resorts.
Okay. Maraming salamat sa pagdala mo sa aming programa, Menchu. And believe me, you are very, very far from done.
Thank you.
Hanggang sa susunod na linggo, samahan ninyo kami ulit dito sa Art to Art, kung saan ang usapang sining at kultura ay para sa lahat. Ito po ang inyong balerina ng bayan, Lisa Macuja Elizalde, nagpupugay sa artistang Pilipino.